Greetings, friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's Seychelles. Today we're going to be looking at Deathworld 2, the second book in the Deathworld trilogy, written by Harry Harrison in 1964, which was 4 years after he wrote the first Deathworld book. And this is pulp science fiction. So, to sum up the book, Jason Denault, the hero from the first book, immediately blunders into a trap set by a bounty hunter. If you recall from the first book, he cheated a casino using his psychic powers, and the casino has sent out a bounty hunter to capture him and bring him to justice. And so he blunders into this trap and is hauled off of the planet Pyrus, where the book starts and the first book ended. And on the way to court, Jason basically sabotages the bounty hunter's ship, and they crash land on a primitive planet. So Jason and the bounty hunter, whose name is Micah, are pretty much immediately taken slaves by this barbarian warrior who has kind of this group of slaves that he has fan out along the beach, and they walk up and down the beach living off tubers, basically, that they pull out of the sand and eat raw. So Jason manages to escape, but he's almost immediately taken as a slave again by a different group. And this group is more technologically advanced than the slave group that he started with, because these people can use crude steam engines to have little vehicles that scoot across the desert. So Jason escapes from that group and is then captured again and taken slave by another group. And this one's even more technologically advanced because they can use electricity to make basic forms of light, I think, and to communicate messages through like Morse code to other groups across the desert. So part of how Jason escapes is that as he goes to each of these groups, he takes a look at their machines and shows them how to improve them. And he does that for favors. So he says, I can build you a better steam engine if you'll give me some better food. And as he kind of gains their trust, he eventually takes advantage of that trust to set up things so that he can make a getaway. But then again is, immediately recaptured by another group right down the street. So eventually, Jason's buddies from the first book figure out where he is, and they show up and they rescue him and the bounty hunter. And just a quick word about the bounty hunter. I didn't really understand that character. For whatever reason, he kind of preaches Old Testament brimstone and hellfire gospel at Jason throughout the book. And anytime Jason tried to escape as a slave to free him and the bounty hunter who was trying to help, the bounty hunter would always give him away to their captors. And I didn't really understand that character or what the heck his motivations were or even how he fit into the book. So yeah, that was one of my first problems with it. Some of my other ones were that Jason Denault, the hero from the first book, he's totally different in the second book. So he ends the first book as this savvy, experienced freedom fighter and diplomat, and then basically just wanders into the most obvious trap that this bounty hunter sets. And it really seemed like a clumsy, artless way to get him off the planet and have another adventure. And then another issue I have is what happened to Jason's psychic abilities? So his ability to cheat that casino was the crux of the plot from the first book. In the second book, he doesn't use his psychic abilities at all to get out of any of these situations, and in fact, they're not even mentioned. It's almost like they've got a second character that they call Jason Denault, but he's like a different person. And also now all of a sudden, he's this master engineer that can build steam engines and electrical generators out of junk lying around in the desert. Like, he couldn't do that in the first book. I really feel that it would have been better if this was a standalone book with a different character instead of taking the guy clumsily out of the first book and plopping him into the second book and having him just be, like, totally different. It just felt really clumsy to me. So there's some action scenes where, he's getting away from the slavers and stuff like that. But for the most part, I really found that this book was bogged down by too much what I call Boy Scout time. Now, Boy Scout time is a shorthand term that I use for when a book has really long-winded excessively detailed descriptions of a character building a machine or trying to create some kind of a gizmo or describing how some kind of contraption works, and it just goes on and on. So I'll give you a quick example of what I mean by Boy Scout time here. Copper wires came down from the ceiling above and terminated in a clumsily wound electromagnetic positioned close to the flat iron shaft of a pendulum. When a current surged through the electromagnet, it would attract the shaft, and when the current was turned off, the weight on the end of the pendulum would drag it back to somewhere near the vertical. A sharp metal scriber was fixed to the bottom of the weight, and the point of the scriber was dug into the wax coating of a long strip of copper. This strip ran in grooves so that it moved at right angles to the pendulum swing, dragged forward by a weight-powered system of meshed wooden gears. And it goes on like that for another 2 paragraphs, and so the book is full of Boy Scout time. So, to kind of wrap it all up, yeah, this book had a few interesting scenes and scenarios, but for the most part, having the character repeatedly escape and then get captured again and again, and then the way he escapes is with dull Boy Scout time, really made this book a disappointment to me compared to the first book. So I can only give this book 2 stars. I wouldn't say it's so bad that you need to avoid it, but I definitely can't say that it's, a book that I recommend and you gotta run out and read. So yeah, 2 stars. Deathworld 2, meh, sneh. So at some point here I plan to read Deathworld 3. Hopefully that one will be an improvement. So thanks for watching. Hope you're doing well. Have a great day.